There we go. Yes, we're live. Welcome back, everybody. I'm joined today by Valeo, and today is a special day because today we're basically going to have a brand new Cosmos chain that you probably never even heard about before, because this is absolute alpha that you're about to hear. Also, we're going to probably be witnesses of something that has never been seen before, but yeah, we're going to talk about this during the stream today. And yeah, potentially an airdrop. I don't know. I'll try to squeeze out as much as I can out of Valeo in this stream today. But yeah, first of all, man, thank you so much for doing this. How are you? How's everything going?
Thanks so much for having me, man. And I'm great. I mean, the entire team is in complete work mode right now. If you knew how behind the scenes everything is right now, you would be feeling the stress. But vibes are high. You know, everyone's super hyped, and it's a good time to build.
Yeah, and you know what they say, like in a bear market, you should go where the builders are and where the committed, dedicated, passionate builders are. And I feel like in Cosmos, there is so much activity throughout this bear market. So
I've seen many ecosystems. I've also been part of some, and I've never seen just so much dedication in the bear market. Like it's actually almost calming how much you can focus on just doing stuff because there's so few outside kind of noise trying to gain your attention. And Cosmos really excels at that. You can tell people do it for the sake of what can be achieved.
Yeah, no, I feel the same. And I know like in a bear market, you know, some people are very emotional, and I understand that's also part of the game, right? And a lot of it is also about investing, about the prices, right? So that's also part of it, but I think still in general, there's so much activity in Cosmos. And yeah, I think today everybody's excited to learn about Quasar. We've met a couple of times now. You guys also came to Colombia, to Cosmoverse. You threw a nice, there we go, Cosmoverse rave at the official after party.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think for those that probably hear you the first time, can you provide a little bit of background? Who is Valeo? What did you do before you got into crypto? And yeah, just talk a little bit about yourself here.
Gladly, yeah. So I guess let's start with my parents. I have Eastern European parents. My mom's Bulgarian, my dad's Russian and Ukrainian. Grew up in communist socialist states. Early in their lives, in their 20s, they immigrated west. My dad to Austria, my mom to Germany. Born and raised in Germany. I used to be very deep in Counter-Strike Global Offensive. I used to play the German Championship, one of the youngest players. But we placed relatively far in the back. But that was pretty much my proudest thing at that point. Got a hand injury from playing, so I had to completely revamp my life. And as life finds a way, literally 2 weeks later, I found out about crypto. I was 16 years old. I heard about Bitcoin for the first time 2 weeks later. And then very quickly, I became the weird kid in high school. I tried to tell people they should kind of care, but no one really cared. I think it was the first time I realized that when you don't come from countries that had bad monetary policies, or you don't really felt them, that it's a bit hard to convey the benefits of crypto, at least in the early stages. For my case, it was pretty obvious from the get-go why crypto needs to stay and is a big thing. I then, I did some advisory and research on a completely like free for work basis for one of the leading research companies in Germany for IT, and I wrote some articles no one cared about. But I was super happy to just kind of, try to educate the public a bit on what's happening. Lo and behold, end of 2017 comes, suddenly everyone cares, right? Everyone asks me what to buy, what to do, right? And that research company was sold to private equity. So I was out of a job, but I was pretty happy with kind of how that turned out. I went to study philosophy. I was always very interested in kind of the reasons things happen, for the like why they happen, how they happen, right? I think philosophy is very underappreciated in modern society. Insert reject modernity, embrace tradition meme. But yeah, I did philosophy, was super fascinated by it. I saw a lot of parallels with crypto, right? Decentralization, freedom of decision making, right? Power to decide what to do with your own capital. And then I got accepted to Draper University in San Francisco, in the Bay Area. That's Tim Draper's private university. He's the seed round investor of Tesla, I think Twitter, LinkedIn, SpaceX, like a couple of companies that we all know. That changed my life pretty much. Like at that moment, I became entrepreneurial. I started a company, died miserably, joined one of the first NFT companies right after ERC 721 launched on ETH. That was amazing. I was sleeping under a staircase of the founder. That was kind of my pay. In San Francisco, I basically just stayed in his house because I couldn't really work. So I was just, staying in his house and learned a lot. He, in fact, actually also invested into Quasar. So we are still in really, really good terms. And then I basically decided that I kind of am a bit tired of talking about it all the time, right? I co-founded another company, Atlantic Ventures, which is also still doing well. There was research on the rise in Germany. Cryptocito, as a German, know that that's a huge business in Germany trying to kind of explain technology, right, to legacy businesses. But you also know that that's a very uphill battle and incredibly draining at some point. So I was like, nope, I'm not doing this anymore. I want to finally do what I'm talking about. I'm like tired of just talking about it. And so, 1.5 years ago, my co-founders and I came up with Quasar, and that's kind of where we are today.
Yeah, and I also want to get into your pinned tweet, which says that you will be let me just read it out. Quasar will be the Switzerland of Cosmos. Just wait. So I want to get into what you mean by Switzerland and also why Cosmos. But before that, you just said you got into crypto when you were 16. And I'm just curious, like when people get into crypto, they come from different angles, right? Like some people come in it for like literally the technology because they're like very technical. Some people, they come into it because of the monetary policies in their country, which is really bad. So they look into alternatives. Some people come from the gaming or, poker kind of like corner. Like how did you get into it? And why did you stay around?
I can't implicate my friend who showed it to me back then, but there's a trade route between China, the East, and the West. A very, very, very old traditional trade route. And that happened to be potentially where I saw Bitcoin for the first time. I can't really say more for my friends.
You're OG. Okay, got it.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Okay. But yeah, that makes sense. I mean, that was probably like back then, that was the kill application, right? So, but yeah, we're in different times now. The space has evolved massively. And in the meantime, Cosmos IBC has been around for 2 years nearly. Actually, I think in a couple of days is the second anniversary of IBC. But yeah, so Cosmos came around. You said you started Quasar 1.5 years ago. What ecosystems, like, did you just find Cosmos and thought like, that's where I want to build something? Or did you come up with Quasar first and said, okay, which ecosystem do you want to position ourselves in? And if so, which ecosystems did you look at?
Yeah, so I actually kind of stumbled into Cosmos, to be very honest. I was sent a link to kind of check it out and look into that. And as almost everyone in the beginning, I thought Atom is the Ethereum of Cosmos. So like, okay, so I guess this is like everyone has their own token, but it's also an ecosystem. Very quickly, I kind of realized, oh, okay, it's all separate chains. And then IBC is kind of the thing that really blew me away. It's like I have I think people that know me know I have strong opinions about validator and multi-sig bridges. But IBC really solves that. So I was like, wow, that's crazy. But then also very quickly realized there's a ton of issues in Cosmos, right? Capital inefficiency, user experience, quite frankly, is just really bad. Which again, not to say not a lot of people working on this, but because the tech is so new, right? We're in a time where people are engaging with things they shouldn't have to touch. Like IBC should not be like a thing you as a human engage with. It should just happen in the background. So it kind of evolved literally at the same time. Many of my teammates and my co-founders had different stages of their life experienced. People wanting them to manage their money, right? And they couldn't do it for regulatory reasons. Or friends and family asking where to invest into, right? And they couldn't really take the time to explain that. TradFi, coming from TradFi and seeing like how barricaded access to financial investments really is. So we want to kind of solve that. And then at the same time, as we stumbled on Cosmos, we immediately realized that it's just a perfect place to do it. Because one of the things that we very early identified around yield aggregators of any sense and any vault platforms is the immense kind of suffering that the protocol has if it's built on another chain. So for example, Yearn protocol, we are good friends with some of the devs. I met them, amazing team. I would never say anything bad about Yearn. However, they are built on Ethereum, which means if there's an NFT mint or something unexpected happening and the gas fees suddenly increase, you have to recalculate the entire strategy if it's still profitable, right? You're basically a victim to what the chain does and what the fees do. And so having your own app chain and basically designing the entire thing around just hosting strategies is kind of what immediately excited us, because lower capital efficiency, bad user experience, and the ability to own the entire stack is literally the triangle that Quasar needs to be a fantastic product. So truly a natural fit. You could say luck. You could say luck.
And you just said, so basically Quasar is an app chain for hosting strategies. It also has to do with DeFi and somehow an analogy with Switzerland. So can you maybe explain for people that have no clue what we're talking about,
Totally.
what Quasar is and what kind of problem it's resolving?
No, totally. So essentially the one sentence pitch is we are connecting professional strategists with global capital. That's the one pitch. And everything kind of branches out of that. So on one hand, what's important to know is that theoretically, if you know how to code Cosmos, and in the future, you don't even need to know how, anyone can create a strategy. That's goal number one. Goal number two is the way our platform works, our chain works, is that our Vault smart contracts are on various chains. So you can run strategies across IBC. That is a super novel feature. Basically, interchain accounts, interchain queries, like we're literally like a week behind what Cosmos allows us to do on that tech side. So you can essentially use the Quasar chain as kind of your gateway into investing into all of IBC. And then the actual liquidity that you deposit gets sent to the destination chain. So for example, one very clear use case would be you want to LP on osmosis and you want to restake your LP rewards. So you either do it every day, which if you have a ledger is super annoying, or you kind of do it once per week, at which point the compound kind of eats away, right? With a Quasar Vault, we can do that automatically for you, right? You can also have a different amount, like different various LP pools and kind of rebalance between them, running a sort of index on osmosis. In the future, you can do cross-stacks arbitrage. So once IBC goes beyond Cosmos, you can arbitrage the trading pairs across different ecosystems, even like Polkadot and Cosmos. You can do leveraged vaults with Mars. So you just leverage your tokens and the vault kind of automatically deleverages or leverages more depending on price movement. And then kind of our flagship first product, which we're going to launch, is an index strategy where you are essentially actually holding all the IBC tokens like, Secret, Osmosis, Juno, Atom, Mars, Injective, Kujira. And you would actually be able to stake them on the destination chains as well as you hold the Vault token, but you can also redeem the Vault token for all the underlying assets. So you buy one thing and then you can either stake all of them with one transaction on our end or get all your assets back, basically the entire basket. So there's a lot of funky stuff you can do, but again, right, all it is magic sauce to trade and control positions across all of IBC that we offer to the community to just build what they want on top.
I find that very interesting. I think especially the index stuff is very much needed. Like that's not just interesting, like we actually need that, right? And by we, obviously, I mean us as the Cosmonaut community, but also if I think further about institutions, right? If they want to invest into Cosmos, and I actually just made a video that's coming out on tomorrow actually, about basically if you want to invest in Cosmos, holding Atom is not enough, right? Like Cosmos is basically IBC, right? Atom is the Cosmos hub. And I think a lot of people also mix that up and misunderstand that Atom does not represent Cosmos, right? Atom is just an L1 sovereign chain in Cosmos, competitive to Osmosis, to Juno, to the ones that you named, and many, many more. But in the meantime, we have 54 of those, right, that are in production with IBC enabled. So how will that index token precisely look like? Is that just a vault where there's like, if I put $100 into it, I have immediate exposure to like just every IBC asset, or like how is that determined, and who creates the pool and how does it work?
So first of all, about the Atom thing, again, it literally happened to me, right? Like it's super confusing to invest into Cosmos, and it's also, I think, the only ecosystem where that really is the case, right? Because we are the app chain thesis ecosystem. So yeah, that's a unique problem, right? That's why the index strategy is not just kind of a joke, but an actual necessity, as you said. The way it would work is essentially, and by the way, if the token allocations that we decide don't need to be the ones that the community decides, right? So we can also have different indexes by different people and communities deciding how to invest their money. But essentially, the way it's going to work is there's going to be an allocation, let's say, just for the sake of its simplicity, 1/3 Atom, 1/3 Osmo, 1/3 Mars, right? And if you deposit the liquidity into the vault, it's going to deposit those into the actual assets on the destination chains. And then if you bond your vault share the same way, like when you do superfluid staking on Osmosis, right? You bond your LP position, it allows you to then stake the underlying assets. Or better yet, the vault does it for you. And then if you redeem the vault shares, you can always send the vault back your shares, and then you're going to get the underlying assets. Obviously, if they're staked, you need to wait for unstaking period, but if they're not staked, you can do it immediately. The way that in the future, soon TM, classic, governance is going to work is it's going to be independent from the chain. So vaults are going to have their own governance just by people deposited into the vault. So you can have, in a way, like DAO, your own communities around a fund, right? I mean, the vault is nothing else than a pool of money. They can either stake it, be super aggressive, invest into early stage projects, LP positions, a mix of all of that. And so in the same way, in the future, you can just govern what you want the index to look like in the actual vault and have those adjustments be made.
And what about the entry barriers and like fees? Can just anybody create their own vault and like campaign for it for people to invest? And can they also have like a business model, or how does that work?
Totally. So there's going to be a lockup in Quasar, but we think it's going to be lower in the beginning, much lower, and then rise as kind of adoption starts, because we're going to have to adopt the same model as Osmosis. We have a frontier and a non-frontier, so that we can always guarantee permissionless vault creation. But obviously, trust is a big part of kind of, like navigating trust and making sure you don't need to trust is a big part of strategy. So it's very important to kind of have a distinction between frontier and non-frontier. But yeah, technically, if you know how to CosmWasm and the chains that we work with, again, right, there needs to be interchain accounts, interchain queries, and then obviously always caveats. But generally speaking, I would suspect in the next few months that most chains that you guys all care about and invest in are going to adopt it. You can start creating your own strategies and run them and advocate for them and have people deposit into them. And you can have a profit share, like a hedge fund manager, right? If you have a strategy, or you can have a 0% profit share, right? Maybe you just kind of want to solve a problem for the destination chain, right? Maybe you just want to deposit liquidity in illiquid pools, and it's not really about making a lot of money in that process. So it's really up to the creator what they want to do with it.
And this is primarily focused on like the Cosmos and ecosystem and IBC chains, or are you also like long-term looking to get out there to like other ecosystems in crypto?
Yeah. So because of my opinion of validator bridges and just multi-sig bridges, where essentially you can never transfer the actual asset, you always just transfer an IOU or a representation, a synthetic, right? Because of that, I think I can relatively guaranteed say that we won't use bridges. But as IBC expands, which it definitely will be on Cosmos, we are going to expand with it. We see ourselves much more like an IBC app chain that happens to be on Cosmos right now, right? And also to kind of link that back to your Switzerland question, right? That's kind of what we mean by that in an easy way. It's that we are a neutral party because everyone is fighting for TVL, right? Like there's so many battles on Cosmos. Obviously, we as kind of the builders, we kick it, right? We like each other, we got drinks, but on the ecosystem level, there's massive fights everywhere around liquidity. We don't participate. We are neutral in that sense. We're Switzerland because we only kind of go for assets under management because the liquidity will never stay on our chain. So other chains love us because we don't compete with liquidity with them. We are actually sending them liquidity. So we are actually, exactly who they want to work with. That makes us a neutral position. And that's also the reason we are our own app chain and not built on, let's say, Osmosis or Atom, right? We are very closely aligned with both, but we cannot be neutral once we take a step to one or the other direction, right? So that, again, it needs to be clear for everyone that uses Quasar, this is a safe place, whether you believe in Kujira more than Injective or in Injective more than Osmosis or Osmosis more in Juno, right? Anything is free for you any strategy can be built on any chain. We have no objection to you doing that, and we want to make sure that that is free. And for the sake of the meme, this doesn't mean you can hide your money in Quasar. That's not what I mean with Switzerland. You can't do that in Switzerland anymore. Regulation changed. So that's not what I mean by that. It's really just a neutral position and the access to anything. Yeah.
Nice. And you just said Quasar itself doesn't hold any liquidity. The liquidity is always on the destination chain. Like, can you maybe explain that in simple terms, what exactly that means, and like what at the end of the day is kind of like the purpose of the Quasar chain? Like, what does it hold? What does it do?
Totally. So the way that the current user experience in Cosmos is that a lot of people have to keep switching between different chains to just do the same action, right? Like, let's say restaking rewards or re-LPing the pool positions. What Quasar does is it automates and controls positions on different chains. So essentially, your user experience could be you just go to Quasar, and whether in the future you create your own vault or you have existing vaults, right? You pick what you want to invest into. It's non-custodial. There's no private keys in the smart contracts, and you just decide what you want to invest into. You do essentially one transaction, again, soon TM, but the team is working on that. We can even take the tokens from a different chain and make them like do the transaction to Quasar for you. And then the second you do a transaction in Quasar, we are sending the liquidity into the vault strategy you chose, which will not be on the Quasar chain. It will be either osmosis, right, or juno, on all the other chains. So that's what I mean by that. The liquidity will be controlled from the Quasar chain and will be governed from the Quasar chain and will be deposited from the Quasar chain, but it's actually not sitting on the Quasar chain.
Yeah, that's really cool. I think that makes a lot of sense, just from also a UX perspective. I think the closest, and we've talked about this before, but the closest that we currently have in production on Cosmos that does something like that would be Sommelier, right? And I think Sommelier has more this purpose to target also the Ethereum community, Ethereum liquidity. They deployed strategies for Aave, Compound, and Uniswap, if I'm not mistaken, for LPing and all these kind of things. So how does Quasar differentiate to Sommelier in that sense?
Yeah. So first of all, I want to say we've been in Twitter Spaces, we talked with the team, and I have nothing but high regard of Sommelier. In fact, I think we're very complementary products, even though the community very often tries to mess with us and kind of make us poke each other. I don't really believe that. Somebody's product is really smart in the sense that it makes your investment into Ethereum save you gas fees as you do so on Cosmos, right? But it's a fundamentally different product because they go the route of having essentially service provide, like not service providers, but vault strategist companies, more legit. They create strategies and govern them, which is a very valid path. And also they decided to go for Ethereum because liquidity is obviously bigger there, right? So in a way, they're more of like a pipeline to Ethereum strategies for someone that is in Cosmos. And that has a valid space. And also, their 3-pool vault, the stablecoin vault, is performing quite well. In fact, I think I want to deposit as well. So yeah, but it's a foundationally different product because we really focus on Cosmos. And we focus on IBC, and we focus on the permissionless vault creation. We focus on solving the Cosmos issues that we have in the ecosystem. And we would only ever want to go to Ethereum if for some miraculous reason in the future, somehow IBC comes to ETH, which technically is possible because of proof of stake change, but who knows when. But once that is possible, then that's the only moment we would go to Ethereum, not before. So yeah, I think user experience wise though, we are relatively similar in saying we want to consolidate what people invest into onto one platform. I think that has a valid space in Ethereum. I personally think in Cosmos, the way that we addressed it is just my bigger pain point, right? I think it's just more complicated to navigate user experience on Cosmos. So that's kind of what we are attaching and doing it.
Yeah, and also the Composable Finance team, which, by the way, they are channel sponsors of Cryptocito. I know you are also very well connected with them. They are bringing IBC to the Polkadot and Kusama world, and also to Near. And I think from they're hardcore IBC maxis, so they just want to get it everywhere. And I think there's a lot of synergies there as well.
Totally. I mean, again, I can't say much, but obviously, we move as IBC moves, and there is other proof of stake chains that are looking into IBC, low alpha, and I think that in the real kind of know-how community and group of people, I've never heard someone contesting that IBC will be the place, will be the protocol to change and transact between different blockchains and state machines.
And for any IBC asset, like, does there have to be any sort of like governance process on the Quasar side or a Quasar side to like onboard new assets, or how does that work?
So,
or is it all compatible from the get-go because of IBC? And
well, again, like if the destination chains adopt kind of the classic standard changes that are going to come across the board the next couple months, then technically it is on standard enabled. Obviously, as with any ecosystem, we could have governance votes where we maybe help enable it, right, to chains that may be lagging behind. But then that would be a DAO decision that doesn't really have a lot to do with Quasar Labs. And then that's something that, as a decentralized system, I have no say over. But essentially, right, the goal really is, because user experience is just the thing we focus on so much, the goal really is to just make sure that it's as nice to use as possible. And we can only ensure that if everything you want to deposit into is depositable. So a lot of my work is pinging other chains and asking them, what's the timeline on this? When do you have ICQ enabled? Hey man, how's ICA looking? So, you know, I can promise you that that is definitely a push I'm doing on my side.
I'm also curious to learn about the role of institutions here, because obviously institutions are what drive a lot of liquidity, a lot of also eyeballs.
And we have very little.
Yeah, so can you talk a little bit about whether Quasar would be something tailored also for institutions, or do you have like separate dashboards, separate front end?
Yeah.
How does that work? And what do conversations look like with them? Because I guess they have different questions, right?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I would say institutions are a very crucial part to Quasar. And as you said, right, they bring a lot of liquidity, and we don't have institutions in Cosmos, right? We work with Anchorage, you know, the digital custodian bank in the US, and they just started accepting, like basically adopting Atom and Osmo, right? Like just barely recently. And I think that the infrastructure is very hard to navigate for institutions, Cosmos, because it's just so decentralized, right? For better or for worse, we're just such a mix of people all abroad that it's hard to kind of find a footing who to talk to. Our product is very much targeted institutions because their needs are the same as an independent asset manager. Anyone that wants to manage other people's assets in crypto has either a custodial system, which with FTX and Celsius and a gazillion others has proven again and again to not work. Or again, it is subject to outside factors that have no control over, right? So like being built on Ethereum again. So, and thirdly, also, if you're an institution looking, it's very hard to find a team that can kind of guide you how to onboard, because very often you have DAOs, you don't even have legal entities placed. So that's kind of the tricky part. And so we have talked with a couple institutions. I've also presented at CoinDesk Ideas, an event in New York in front of family offices, hedge funds, and all those big money guys, because our solution is kind of tailored for them as well. The way that we see Quasar working into their hands is in the future, they're going to create their own front ends, right? It won't even say Quasar, but they will use the chain. They're going to create their own vaults. They're going to create trade the native assets, right? Native staking, native governance, native LPing, native cross-chain transfers, and they're going to allow them on their own front end to their already existing client base, right? That means that from compliance perspective, they're not allowing new clients, which is kind of the thing that always makes it hard for institutions to come to crypto, right? If they would allow everyone globally to invest without KYC, in crypto that works. On the institutional side of compliance, it doesn't, right? So that's one way we look at this. And they're super excited because we're essentially offering them a product that they don't have the capability to build and don't have the capability to use, but are very eagerly to do so. If you look at Grayscale Bitcoin, right, that was like, why was it so huge? Why did it have billions of dollars of liquidity? Because institutions had the infrastructure needed to hold client stocks, right? That allowed them to buy Bitcoin. Now with the DPEG, now with what's happening with Grayscale and DCG, that's out the window. And I think that gave the institutions the push they needed to understand, okay, it's time to go native, We need to hold the actual assets. We need to stake the actual assets. We need to be actually in the ecosystem. And so from what I saw from institutions, the index is, they love it. They actually really love it, because in the bear market, you want to kind of spread your bets across the board. And because most of them agree that IBC is the future, they still have a lot of disagreement which chain is going to be the better one or the worst one, right? Or how to perform. So they want to offer their clients kind of, an IBC strategy, an index. And with IBC moving beyond Cosmos, it gets even more fascinating, because then you can hold, Polkadot and Near and Atom and also on the same kind of strategy. So while we're not there yet, right, it's important to note that the needs that these companies have are huge, right? So we want to kind of really make sure we have everything we need to before we kind of talk to them. They're interested. I have DMs coming in. I have LinkedIn requests. There is some inbound coming.
Yeah, I feel like they're all doing their homework right now, especially in the bear market, right? I said this also in a previous video. Like, the cards get reshuffled in a bear market, right? Like, people just do their homework. Okay, what's the next big narrative? What's the next big ecosystem? Where are a lot of builders that are doing cool stuff? And many of them just end up in Cosmos, because that's where really cool, innovative stuff happens, right? And also good UX. I mean, there could also be, obviously, there's a lot of room to improvement also on governance, right? We always have this DPS meme, drama per second. But I still think in the end of the day, we're still on the right track. But also one more thing about institutions. I mean, obviously, last week we saw a lot of attacks from the SEC about, Kraken staking, about attacking the kind of like middleman. We all still have PTSD from the FTX collapse. So what's the sentiment? You said you talk to these big money guys at conferences. Like, what's their sentiment? Are they just scared about regulation or holding self-custody? Or what's their biggest?
It depends on who you talk to. Generally, you can definitely tell that I have not talked to anyone that says I'm leaving crypto. Like, that's it, right? That's it. However, I would be lying if I didn't say a lot of them are just saying, we're taking a breather, we're taking it slow. Let's see what happens in the next couple months, right? Doesn't mean they're necessarily short, but they're saying that the uncertainty in the market just makes them wait, right? Just wait and see what happens. The sentiment is generally, I mean, it's an uphill battle, obviously, for institutions, but the institutions have the difference that they have pressure from the outside, right? They're managing other people's money. And anyone that's ever fundraised or managed someone else's money in this call is going to understand what I mean when I say that's different money than your money. So when you manage other people's money and you get pressured because they all, right, like the global space knows, I should have some Bitcoin, I should have some ETH, right? What else is out there? How is Cosmos looking? And so if they want to compete with the other asset managers, because we're talking about billions, sometimes trillions of dollars, you gotta be ahead of the curve, right? At the same time, their biggest concern is always compliance, like always has been meme, insert astronaut, always has been. So it's really less the market segment and more the compliance. But I think it could be a careful blessing in disguise, the Kraken news. And don't get me wrong, again, right? I don't want to say that I love the bear market because that means people lost money. I mean, my portfolio took a hit, right? So that's not something to joke about. And also Kraken being hit is not nice because whether we like it or not, they allow easy access to those services, right? It is custodial. So I'm going to say I don't like it, but there's a reason people use it. It is a hit for the ecosystem, but I also think it's going to allow people to kind of take the step to native, right? And that's kind of the pitch that we have at Quasar to institutions and to DeFi curious people. Take the step to native. You don't need to hold the IOU. You don't need to believe in a centralized exchange. You don't need to trust this or that. Like, come to the actual ecosystem, deposit your money, control your money. And if that's too hard for you, do the same non-custodial stuff with Quasar that does most of the work for you while still not controlling your money. So that's kind of where we see ourselves.
Yeah, I fully agree. And like, I understand if I think about, for example, my parents, right? I want to onboard them to crypto. I open MetaMask. It's horrible, right? It's
already
like so
done.
bad.
Yeah, they're just out.
Kraken, they can still manage. You have an account. It's easy. When I discovered Kepler, I was like, this is much better. Like, I like that. That's pretty cool. But then also like having to do IBC transfers is like, and it's also a little bit abstract, even for people within crypto, right? But I think like we're getting more and more towards a world where the non-custodial world even DEXs are like becoming a very smooth user experience. And
look at osmosis.
Yes,
I mean, the UX keeps getting better and better.
Yeah, and I think also like what I really love about osmosis, maybe we can talk about this later as well. They're liquidity outposts, which basically means that in the future you don't have to leave your native chain. If you have assets on Juno, you don't have to leave Juno. You can tap into liquidity from the native chain, right? So what's up with that? What are you thinking?
I don't know. You know, that sounds cool. I think that sounds cool.
Does that sound interesting to you?
Yeah, I think that's interesting. I think Osmosis may be sitting on something interesting. No, but on a serious note, you know, the design philosophy that almost everyone in Cosmos is pushing forward is the same. It's like making stuff more direct, same front end, have people not hop between 4 different front ends. I mean, the average person has 1 bank account, 1, right? And then meanwhile, we are expecting them to have Kepler, MintStation, Leap, and 5, 6 different chains, and on this chain you stake, but on that one you want to vote now, but on this one you actually LP, and on that one you actually get the rewards, and this one, that one you get this one, and this one detects your tokens on the other chain, but that one you need to do the manual transfer. I mean, IBC is like TCP/IP. It's not supposed to be humanly readable. It should just exist and do the work for you. Like, we need to get to a point where people click blue link and blue link opens website. Right, and that's kind of, again, right. I'm preaching to the prayer. Everyone understands this, but this is kind of where we are really strongly moving towards on the Quasar side. It should be simple to use. I think it's almost a cliche by now, but everyone says it. But it's true. Like, I want my parents to use Quasar, right? Like, I want them to be able to use Quasar, and for that you need something like Web3 auth, right? So you have login with Google, with Apple, which for all crypto G's here, I know I have all my money on ledgers, but again, at some point you have to acknowledge people want to trust someone. So as long as we enable the option to do either that or that, I think we're good. And then, you know, the logo being an app, wink, wink, that's not a coincidence, right? And so I think that the user experience that Robinhood has for all the synthetics and front running and other creepy stuff they do, their user experience is phenomenal, and that's why they became so big. And so that's kind of what we are looking at from the Quasar perspective.
Now, going back to the Switzerland analogy, and I want to talk about also the QSR coin. I want to talk about, I see a lot of questions about when airdrop, will there be any airdrop? We're going to get to this, don't worry. But I want to talk about actually the most important of everything, which is security, right? In the Switzerland analogy, if I have my money in Switzerland, I can be pretty relaxed with Switzerland is a safe country, right? They have good precautions there. So how safe is Quasar in that analogy?
Yeah. So before just saying very safe or not safe, what I would like to say is I think people need to I want people to know that for anyone in the Quasar team has a stake in Quasar, everyone, right? And we all deeply care about what we do. And we want this to be secure for users' sake and for our own sake. And for, again, if we want our parents to use this for our parents' sake. And I think that one of the most shocking things I ever saw was when you go on rec.hq/leaderboard, which is, you know, rec news, and you look at the biggest hacks ever, the amount of those that have been unaudited is incredible. I mean, truly insane. And so one of the first decisions we made very, very early is we need to take security very seriously. And not just as a meme, but actually following up on this. So we have a very deep contract with Hellborn, one of our kind of the leading auditors in the entire space, where every month they do security audits on Quasar. Now, granted, because we can't make that statement, there's always smart contract risk involved. There's always risks when you engage in crypto and the smart contracts. However, best you can do is audit it ongoingly, because audit companies, if you would see the reports that Hellborn sends us, you would never want to invest into something that is not audited. I can truly tell you this as a crypto investor. Ever since I saw what they kind of find and what kind of crazy things they think about that we didn't think about, you start to really look if ecosystems are audited or not. But yeah, you can see unaudited is very often the kind of the biggest auditor. But yeah, you know, so that's kind of why we care a lot about this.
It's also interesting, like you said, Hellborn, they were also at Cosmos last year. Yeah. I met them first at the Composable conference in Berlin, and they are huge. Like they have a massive team, and you can tell like there's not a single, like at least here on rec.eth. Link, whatever, the leaderboard for
actually, I think there's a different leaderboard. I think there's an older one. If that's all on ETH. I think if you go to rec.hq/leaderboard, you have the bigger one. I think these are almost all on ETH.
Yeah, but there was not a single one here from Halburn, and they are taking their stuff very seriously. But
yeah,
rec.hq.
Rec.hq/leaderboard.
Okay, because that was the first one that showed up.
This one is the ones where you see the actual big ones, the Ronin and the Nomad.
I'll try to find it and I will drop the link, because when I type it in like that, it doesn't show up for some reason. But okay, I got it. I was just on the ETH one. Let me share again.
I was wondering because I've seen bigger hacks on there, and if you see that on ETH, there's more audits happening because again, ETH is the oldest DeFi ecosystem, so they're used to that. But if look at this one, look how many of those are unaudited. It's truly insane. Like it's actually crazy. So yeah, that's really what kind of
624, 600 million poly, almost 600 million BNB bridge. That's wild stuff. Wormhole 300 million.
And it's very often bridges, and it's very often unaudited, and that truly is kind of most of what you need to know.
So when we talk about security, would it be fair to say that Quasar relies or like has the same security assumptions that basic Cosmos technology has, such as IBC, for example?
Yeah,
obviously, surface.
Obviously, there is always, like when we talk about trustless systems, what we really talk about is trust minimized systems, right? And so the assumptions on IBC, for example, I think because everyone in Cosmos uses it and it's open source, I think there's a lot of good devs looking over that at all times, right? And I know there have been exploits found and they've been fixed before anyone, before it ever leaked. But I think that kind of the fact that it's already so widely adopted means that there's a lot of eyes on it, right? But obviously, yes, assumptions are always there, and the best thing you can do is just keep assumptions on the smallest amount and control everything you can control, right? And that's why, we have the agreement with Halborn, and that's also why, our developers, which by the way, shout out to them, they're still grinding. I hope I can let you know in the last 15 minutes what they're grinding on, but they really we go for clean, good code, even if it takes a bit longer, because it's just super important to make sure that security is just, you don't just mess with that, period, right? You build your reputation over years and it's destroyed in minutes. And if, with how much work the entire team put into Quasar and will continue to put in, would be a shame if that's how it would end. So we make everything we can to make sure that doesn't happen.
And that agreement with Halburn, is that like on a monthly basis, or like are they basically working with?
It's a year-long contract, but then every month we have a slot where they basically they have like a list of 10 different things they do, and depending on what we need in that month, we tell them what we need in that month, and they basically assign resources to that. I think if you very soon, I think you can view our entire GitHub, and then we also uploaded one of the first reports we got. It was almost a year ago at this point. So obviously we knew that what we gave them was very far from perfect. I mean, there was like one address that controlled the entire, controlled everything, because it was like alpha tested, right? So internal testing stage. But I think the report kind of showcases you how they look at things and how they kind of outline it. Yeah.
Can you maybe just share, I don't know if I can ask that, but share a rough ballpark, how much does that roughly cost? How much are you spending on security? Is it a 6-figure amount? Is it?
Let me just say it's money well spent.
All right. But yeah, okay, I understand. So yeah, sounds cool. I'm really excited about that. Now let's talk about probably the most important thing, which is the launch. When launch, when token, right? Everyone wants to know that. When Binance, when is all that happening? So what can you tell about that?
So we have Mainnet very soon. We announced with our last fundraise that Mainnet is already, we have an internal schedule. We're not releasing it yet because we want to make sure that we can actually hold it up before we say numbers, but it is not far in the future. truly isn't at this point. Now, other releases, again, I'll try to get every minute I can in this call to use the last minute maybe, because they're still grinding. I keep checking my screen here. But generally speaking, the index strategy is going to launch after Mainnet. We're going to launch with an LP strategy on osmosis. And we also have some very funky idea about our token launch, because we are exploring using our own vault infrastructure to create our token launch. So I think this is alpha, because it's never happened before, as far as I know, on Cosmos. Well, it wasn't possible, but we're gonna probably, again, create our own vault, seed it with a certain amount of Quasar tokens, have a 1 week period where people can deposit like an LBP, right, to fill the other side, and then get their Quasar tokens. And then that vault will automatically send the Quasar tokens to LP positions, seeding the first pools on osmosis with the funds that were basically raised. So we're gonna essentially showcase our infrastructure and the benefit of it as people for the first time invest into it. So that's kind of what we're super excited for. And other things, again, let's revert to that in a sec if we are lucky.
Can you share anything around kind of supply of the QSR token and some of the utilities? You mentioned earlier that something also in connection to the vaults, that when you want to set up a new vault, you have to lock up some QSR, if I understood correctly. Yeah. Like talk to us some about the use cases and some of the basic tokenomics, if you can.
Totally. So we are going to have the cap we are aiming for is 1 billion. That's classic. And then essentially you're gonna have to lock up some Quasar tokens to create a vault. We're going to have a mechanism down the road where you can opt into sharing profits with the treasury. The treasury is going to be a very important part of our project, because as we are a project that lives off of other projects, right? We are an asset manager, right? We are not competing with Osmosis or anyone else. It is inherently important for Quasar to have stake in those projects as well. So we are going to try and diversify our own treasury with the assets that we actually manage as well. So we want to hold Osmo, we want to hold Atom, we want to hold Kujira and all the other projects. And so when you opt in to the profit sharing agreement with the treasury, you allow the treasury to vote if they want to deposit liquidity into your vault. So let's say you have a really cool strategy, right? And then you share 10% of the profits with the treasury. At that point, let's say the community, the DAO decides that's a really cool strategy. We love that strategy. Let's deposit into this as the Quasar treasury, right? Because the Quasar treasury wants to use the investments on Quasar as well. And now they deposit, a certain amount into the vault. It essentially means that the treasury has a leverage. So the way that the Quasar token holders and the Quasar chain profits is by having basically a leverage on the profits, right, of the actual strategies. And the strategist is happy because he just got a lot of liquidity that he wasn't able to manage before, which still means that in total numbers his revenue increases. So the treasury really is kind of the kicker on our side. And when it comes to kind of profit sharing and those things, it needs to be subject to governance. I'm going to have a very hard line here for the regulatory reasons, for our reasons, for like anyone's reasons. We can't decide that. We don't want to decide that. If anything, the community down the line decides if there's a profit share agreement, a revenue share agreement, dividends, something like that with the Quasar token holders. But as it is right now, we're going to start with very basic tokenomics, keep it simple, keep it chill. Just need to make the show for the stream. No promises on those things happening. That it will be subject to governance in a decentralized system in the future. But the goal is to leave doors open for the DAO to decide what would be best for Quasar token holders.
Yeah, if I recall correctly, I think Sommelier, the Sum tokenomics, they also don't have any emissions of new Sum, like new minting or inflation.
I need to go into this. Sorry, we do have inflation. So you're going to be able to stake your Quasar tokens, and you're going to be able to make staking rewards. So that will be enabled for sure.
But you said it has a max supply, or?
Yes, we have a max supply. So down the road, technically, I mean, it's very hard in Cosmos to truly have a cap, but you can design tokenomics to have basically a cap. So that's what most chains do, and that's what we're going to do as well. So staking rewards are going to go through a similar, thirdening as Osmosis as well. But the reality is that, with mesh security coming in, and maybe interchain security version 2, if that's still on the plan, we are Switzerland, so we want to kind of work with everyone, and
where the money is, like the Swiss.
Yeah, maybe potentially that could be true.
But how does, so I guess like in the beginning, there will be inflation, as in like a reserve of QSR coins that will be there
Yes,
for a security budget, right? Like
exactly.
for validators, there needs to be incentives, right? So that comes from Quasar tokens that are allocated from the beginning, or how does that work?
Yeah, so we are going to, the question was when airdrop, to be determined. I think I can announce that there will be one, but when is the question? So when airdrop, I can't answer, but airdrop question mark, yes. When it comes to, yeah, there you go, yeah, my friends.
It's like
I got you guys, I got you. When it comes to early incentives, though, we are going to focus very hard on incentivizing early users. So the same way that Mars does that, right, where the first pools are heavily incentivized, we're going to do a similar tokenomics approach where we want people that deposit into Quasar in the early stages or into vaults. If vaults are new and we deem them to be very high quality, just incentivize deposits, right? And make sure that people get Quasar tokens for depositing as well. So that would definitely happen, again, subject to community governance, but I think that's a no-brainer from the community's perspective. So, anyone that's willing to try it out and see for themselves how much better the user experience with Quasar is will be rewarded for that once we are live. And yeah, that's pretty much it on that front.
Do you have any? You said Mainnet is launching very, very soon. I think we can't wait for the index token to go live. Do you already have like a rough estimate? Like, are you guys launching that as kind of like the Quasar core team, or who is going to launch the first index, and like how is that going to look like? Is that going to be like 60% Atom and then?
So we are going to launch the first strategies more as a product market fit, so showcasing the product works. But our goal is to have competitors and different asset managers on the chain. So we actually don't want to be the main asset manager, but we are going to start with our own. And also, I just got the green light. That's probably why you see a massive smile on my face. So thanks everyone that waited so long. The team has been grinding the entire time. I'm pretty sure they're all looking right now. So Quasar team, love you guys. But as of this second, it seems to be confirmed. As of this second, 1.5 years of work mean that right now you can go and check out the Quasar testnet for the first fucking time. Quasar public testnet is live.
Congratulations.
Thank you. I have not seen it yet. The team just told me, so I actually can't check it out right now. But let's not go on the live stream for that, just for the sake of it. But Quasar.fi, you can see what you need to find. Twitter at Quasar.fi, you can find information on that. The domain should be testnet.quasar.fi. But again, I haven't seen it yet, so in case something is not alive yet. But the team told me, so what I'm going to do right now is I have this beautiful thing here, a little brewski. Let me see how I can open it. Let's see. And for the Germans out there, you're going to laugh at the name because that's how I'm feeling right now.
With water.
Let's do it, man. Cheers.
I'm halal.
Quasar team, let's freaking go.
There we go. Also breaking, this is the first time we have a live launch during a Cryptocito stream. So there we go.
Yeah, and basically from the user's perspective, all you're gonna do is you get the faucets on Discord, and then you deposit into a vault. So you only do 1 or 2 actions, but the magic is that on our testnet, this money is going to be sent to Osmosis testnet automatically from our side and going to deposit into an LP position, which until now you could not do that. That didn't work. So that is a first for Cosmos as well. I'm so proud of the team. I hope it works out for them. And guys, anyone who wants to check it out, please check it out. If there's problems and mistakes, we have a Google form. Just let us know. This is a test net, so we are expected to find issues. We want to find issues. But I'm excited, Cito. I mean, last minutes of the stream, I can only imagine the team crunching through
Man,
the last minutes.
I'm excited for you. Like ever since we met in Colombia, like you could really feel you guys are so passionate about what you're doing and so positive. So I love the vibes. But yeah, man, I'm happy for you that things seem to run smooth. And I guess so. The next step from here is then Mainnet, right? Like now we're fully on track, road to Mainnet.
Yeah.
Yeah. What are some of the other things like? on the road to Mainnet that you guys are now heavily focused on? More the BD side? Is it
so we have a thing coming up with a collaboration with Osmosis, but I think that's going to be announced by them and by us together. We have Sergey Hydra. There we go.
I think it's an emoji. It's just not showing up here, but whatever.
Здравствуйте, some Russian-speaking people. But yeah, super freaking excited. And sorry, yeah, I'm just excited. You asked them the next steps. Yeah, Mainnet is the next step. I think we have some Osmosis announcement. We have, I mean, a lot of BD on the background. You know how it is. BD just takes time, right? Like people just see partnership announcement, think that was like 2 calls, but it's a really long crunch. But there's a lot of cool things we're working on. I think that the pipeline is packed. Like I can promise you from our side, the inbound is not the problem. Like the interest towards is not the problem. It's really just being able to actually use those things and make something out of them. But yeah, I'm just hyped. Sorry, I mean, this has been.
You can really tell it. I think like also a lot of people don't really understand, that's why it's awesome that you just share this with us, because a lot of people don't understand how much is behind all this, right? How much work, how much sweat.
We
are
12 people.
Endless nights.
Crunch, pain, sweat, like everything. And I mean, it's like, it sounds crazy, but we just launched our own freaking blockchain. Like, that's insane, Obviously, we had testnets before, but it's an entirely different thing if you have a private testnet versus a front end that works with a vault that works on a testnet that's yours. Like, that's a totally different story. So, again, to the Quasar team, because I know they're watching, they're pinging me. Did it. Step 1 of 2 is done. Next step is Mainnet.
So, when Mainnet? Weeks, months, how long?
Less than 2 months.
Less than 2 months, okay.
Less than 2 months.
That's not long.
That's the best I can give you.
No, that's amazing. Yeah, I like that. I like less than 2 months.
I like that too.
That's like nothing. That's like tomorrow. It's like,
yeah, I mean, in crypto time, that's in a year, but in normal time, that's basically tomorrow. Yeah.
Do you think you're gonna beat ICS to market in the chain security?
We'll see. The team is hyped, but I mean, like, obviously it would be good for media for me to just say yes, but the last 5% of anything code wise is just incredibly hard. Thank you. Let's go. There we go. We got some hype. Yeah, thank you very much.
Nice. I'm gonna see, guys, if there's any questions, please drop them in the chat. I think we covered pretty much everything around Quasar. It's definitely a product that already, like, I strongly believe has strong product market fit. It's much needed in Cosmos, not just in Cosmos, like generally in crypto, but especially in Cosmos, because we have this app chain world where there's not just one coin you can invest in, you're exposed to the entire ecosystem, right? Like Sol or ETH on Ethereum, right? Like, you don't have that in Cosmos, right? Atom does not represent the ecosystem. It pretty much, I think, like, it does to some degree, because it has the most liquidity, the brand recognition, right? People just see Cosmos in the name and they're like, okay, that's Cosmos, right? So just because everybody thinks that, I think it kind of still is in the end of the day. But on a product and technical level, it definitely isn't. So Quasar is definitely a game changer for that. I don't know, is there anything from your side, like any FAQs that you got from the community that people might misunderstand, or anything that you want to share as we wrap up?
I just want to thank everyone, truly. This has been just a long amount of long work, and still going to continue to be. And I just wish that people, look at us and see if this is something they're interested in, because we all truly believe in this and we've gotten good feedback so far. And, the team is passionate. If you go on the team page on Quasar and you read through the backgrounds of everyone, you're going to be stunned. So much expertise, so much knowledge, so much background, so many good reasons for us to come together and build this. And the timing is very rarely right in life. And today it's one of those days. So Cito, thank you so very much for allowing us to do this live.
Man, I'm equally pumped, and I'm just at this stage, I'm lagging behind with so many things. We should have probably done this earlier, but I'm glad we did it now, because now we also have this big announcement. But there's so much excitement in Cosmos. I think we have a lot of upside potential in the ecosystem. Also, make sure everybody to come to Cosmos. I think you've been there last year, and it's a great place where you meet everybody, all the teams, the community, everybody that's kind of like in the ecosystem. So yeah.
Cosmos is the highlight of the year. I can't wait for this year. Istanbul is a fantastic choice. We actually did our offsite in Istanbul last year. Thoughts out to Turkey, of course, but Istanbul really is a fantastic choice for a place. And you know, it bridges the East and the West, right? It's very symbolic for crypto as well.
Turkey, I mean, like if IBC was a city, it would be Istanbul, like literally. Like, and it also, two continents, right?
Totally, yeah. And it also is just it's a place where people have understood the need for crypto in a much more foundational way than a lot of us have yet. And we can call a lot of people in the West can call themselves fortunate that they haven't, but it's only a question of time, in my opinion. So the Turkish are really leading that on that front. Teşekkür ederim to my Turkish friends. Yeah, I'm excited, man.
Yeah, man. Like the Turkish community is massive. Like, I think it has one of the highest adoptions in crypto for sure.
I think it's a ridiculous amount, like 25% of people have crypto.
Yeah, could be. I mean, you read some different numbers, but like when you are in Istanbul, you can just feel, you know, like there's little physical exchanges
everywhere. You see the Bitcoin button accepted.
There's little trader houses. There's little satellite communities across the city. It's great. Binance is super active there. Avalanche has a massive community there, obviously because Emin is Turkish, right? And yeah, I think it's a great place. But like you mentioned, what happened in Turkey is absolutely horrible with the earthquake. There's actually a community effort, Prop 101. I don't want to get too much into like, you know, the implications of it and all these kind of things, but just look at it. There's also donation addresses if you want to just do it for yourself, like regardless of the vote. But I think still it does help. And the fact that, you know, Turkey is such a crypto-friendly place.
Yeah, we really have an obligation.
And you can actually donate in crypto. Like literally an NGO made an Atom address. So you can now they can receive Atom and they convert it into Turkish lira and help people on ground. Both Turkish, Syrians, right? It doesn't matter if they're what nationality they are, but like just for that region. So check that out. But yeah, I think this was really cool, man. I really appreciate all the alpha. I'm very excited. Any final words? I know you're excited. How do you feel? Anything?
I'm just buzzing. The team wants me to join the call, so I'll hop over to them and party with them a bit. But overall, I want to say thanks to everyone. See you in Cosmos. See you at Mainnet in less than 2 months. Obviously, as we're rolling out, if you have bugs right now, wait 5 minutes, wait 10 minutes. We are in the call. It's happening. Don't worry about it. Remember Mars, right? Give us 5 minutes. Give us 10. No worries on that. But it is happening as we speak. So thank you so much, Cito. Have a good one, Lisbon. Actually coming down to Lisbon tomorrow, so maybe we'll have another coffee. But,
yeah, we should. I'm still here. Where should I send people? Should I drop the link to?
Let me see the exact link just to make absolutely sure that we have the right link.
I'm gonna drop the Twitter for Quasar.
So this, from what I see so far, this is still bugging right now, but it will be working in a second. But let me go on our Twitter. Let's see. I think we haven't set it on Twitter yet. Okay, so you guys really have alpha here. We haven't even set it on Twitter. But the link I sent you right now will work in a couple minutes. You can already use the faucet, so you can already get your tokens, and then the vault should be fixed not too long from now.
Okay. There we go.
Otherwise, obviously, the main website is quasar.fi.
It's like pre-alpha. It's like alpha before it's even alpha.
It's literally like this is like we haven't even announced it on Twitter yet. So whoever's watching right now, you guys are truly the OGs.
Should I share the testnet link or the second?
Yeah. Again, it will bug for the first couple minutes, but like you can already do the faucet that works without the bug, and then be ready from there. Fantastic.
Nice. All right, man. I'll let you go. Thank you so much. Also, everybody for the engagement, for the questions, for the positivity. I think we're still in a bear market, but there's still a light in the end of the tunnel, especially in Cosmos. So there we go. Thank you so much. I'll see you guys in the next one. Thanks, Valeo, and we'll talk soon, man.
Bye-bye. Cheers.
Bye.